It's finally here, the new year, 2020. This is the time where we say goodbye to the previous year and welcome the new. With the coming of the new year, I thought it'd be nice to try something different. December 2019 had plenty of audio drama activity, and I thought it'd be fun to give some first impressions, look at what's to come, and give some recommendations on what to check out. Let's take a look at what last month had to show. Created by Boggly Bronies, or, more specifically, Zigbar Assassin, seeing as the original team that once ran the channel has broken up. It's pretty awesome Zig was able to get this completed despite everything. Since the original team has split and other issues brought up in the updates, it's hard to say if there'll be an episode 2, but as far as first episodes go, this was a great start. Real quick, I'd like to touch on the rating as that's a part of this, even if those who made this didn't have a real hand in it, as this is a fanfiction adaptation. Normally, I'm put off by the mention of real-world references, especially when it gets into memes or fanfiction as mentioned here. In this case, it works for the most part. Right from the start, it sets the tone of the piece perfectly, allowing for this to work without coming off as jarring from the use of the narrator to how the characters act. It's pretty funny. Lots of jokes land, though others don't land so well. Still, the pacing and how the jokes keep coming helps to mitigate that. Part of the joke's success is pushed by the great execution of the actors. Duskshine was perfect. The expression was always spot on, allowing for this to work without coming off as jarring from the use of the narrator to how other characters act. The others were good to great, though Nightmare Moon came off flat. These recordings are old, so I can only imagine how much better they've gotten over the years. The first episode adaptation of The Unexpected Love Life of Duskshine had a good start and does well to introduce itself. I guess if I had one thing, it'd be the acting at certain points like on Fluttershy, but that's commenting on old acting. The use of sound was good overall, but there were times the crowd sounds were either too quiet or weren't working, like the Nightmare Moon scene or the party to an extent. I know my quality was brought up with how old these recordings are, but I didn't notice anything too egregious. That or this was so engaging I didn't notice. Again, can't really comment on something that's old because it's most likely irrelevant by this point. This is one I'd say give a listen, but don't expect a second episode at this point. There's talk about recasting in the comments, so interest is buzzing to keep this going. Regardless, I would watch expecting this to be it with hope that there'll be more. It's a good production of a silly story, and if it interests you, the original fanfiction is linked below so you can read the whole story yourself. Another first episode premiere, created by Loveheart326 and Vinyl-XD. I got to say it's a fair first start. A bit sluggish and not without its problems, but a pretty fair start. Let's get the negative out first. There's a lot of dragging. Scenes that could be concise while moving things along but are dragged out with at times stiff dialogue. Editing not helping with how beatish they feel as if it's just hitting the marks. That's mostly with the pony scenes. There are scenes that could be easily taken out or moved till later. For example, the Sakura dream felt out there. If this is going off the show, Sakura's never been known for her prophetic dreams. Celestia is. Not that she couldn't, but that leads to another problem. That's all she does. Inform the group of this attack. Seeing as Celestia is known for her dreams, wouldn't it make more sense for her to see this, as she's already been introduced? Furthermore, the use of prophecy to warn them of the attack in general is problematic. It kind of lessens any tension that could come from them not knowing. When you know there's going to be an invasion, it's way more involving when the ones being invaded don't know. It puts you on the edge of your seat wondering if the invaders will get caught or not, and how the ones being invaded will react under pressure. Of course, them knowing could still work, but doing it through a prophetic dream is kinda cliché. And from a character whose only contribution is that is pointless. Looking at the episode 2 casting call, it seems Sakura will have more of a role. I still feel that if this had to happen, it probably would be better later, where she'd be more relevant, but only time will tell. You could easily have a changeling get caught instead, say, Thorax. He could have been trying to warn them if you want to go with him being against the Hive like in the show. If so, it'd have been better during the invasion help ramp tension while being relevant and flowing story-wise. Then there's the Spitfire scene. It feels extremely out of place, like it was shoved in to establish the Wonderbolts being there, and right at the end where you see no one else preparing aside from Rainbow and getting the Wonderbolts. It's extremely off-putting. You could easily have Cadence or Shining sending a royal invitation to the Wonderbolts, requesting they perform at the event. Have Dash say she's on it, end scene, and accomplish what the scene did in less time, giving the drama more time to explore the necessities. Speaking of, why so much focus on the main six? I guess if they play more of a role in future episodes, it makes sense to give them some establishment, but they did that with the scenes at the start and at the end. Seeing as Flurry will eventually be kidnapped, wouldn't it make more sense to focus on and develop Shining and Cadence? More importantly, the relationship with Flurry? So when she gets kidnapped, it hits harder because we've come to care. More focus should have been put on their relationship aside from one song, which felt like it was shoved in there with how little focus is put on them. I'm going to assume that comes in later like in Anastasia, because of the impact the song had in the original movie. The acting ranged from good to decent. I feel part of that came from the dialogue. With improvement, it could easily bump up the acting. Regardless, it's clear there were good casting choices all around. My recommendation would be to read the dialogue aloud during editing passes. Helps me a lot when writing. Things sound way different in your head than they do out loud. There were some odd editing moments like Chrysalis' speech in the beginning, seemingly getting quieter. Maybe that was just me. Otherwise, audio was pretty clear. Could use a little bit more on the balancing to make sure everyone's leveling is even. And watch when you use music from the show. Sometimes you can hear there was dialogue removed. A nitpick, even a personal gripe, but Pharynx doesn't come off as a character who would say, "my dude." It sounds kind of funny to me character-wise. Normally I don't talk about images, but there were times things were happening in the images the sounds didn't support, like a changeling flying when you heard hooves clopping, or them walking around the room interacting with things, but you didn't hear that. The only reason I bring this up is because there are, at times, a lot of images. That can be something to keep in mind for next time. Overall, not bad. These are all easy fixes and the audio is pretty clean, so props for that. Now for the more positive aspects. The concept is great. Chrysalis' plan is sound and makes sense. Flurry being the daughter of the Princess of Love, and them being a species that feeds off of it, it makes sense that Chrysalis would come up with this. That and a little revenge while she's at it. I love the establishment of character and relationships with Pharynx in relation to Thorax and Chrysalis. It was well done and great to see some showing overtelling through dialogue in how he wasn't outright saying, "Oh great, I'm getting summoned about Thorax again. I always get summoned about him because we're so close and he's my brother." Instead, it was more ranty and natural, giving the audience the information they need without slapping it in their face. Every changeling scene made sense to be there. It gave us lots of insight into Chrysalis and drip-fed information with each scene, while also being different so it's not repeating itself. One is about the plan, the other is to go over the finer details while establishing things like Thorax naturally, and the final giving a hint for what's to come. The general introduction was pretty good. Not showing the Chrysaling and all that was a good choice. Only the scene of Twilight and Co. visiting Flurry for the first time, as that's all the introduction you need. Everything is moving along, and this makes for a good first episode that should set up nicely for the introduction of the main concept for the next. I'd recommend giving it a try. If the concept of Chrysalis stealing and raising Flurry interests you, then you should enjoy it. If you're still iffy, then wait for the second episode. I believe it will get better in time. The writing is at a good enough level that it can support the concept, there's a good cast behind this, and all is going well, so I feel safe in saying it's worth a watch. One of many Christmas specials this year, made by Twilight Sparkle Show for her series Without Your Princess. I don't think I got this one. If you find apps like Elf Yourself funny or invested in social media, I guess, this is for you. I'm more into dramas and the like that have a story. This feels more like a jumbled up clip show where none of the sequences have much grounding. You could say I didn't watch Without Your Princess and that's why I'm so lost, but the thing is, I have and I couldn't follow that either. So when I learned that Rainbow wasn't Twilight's wife from this, I was shocked. I think that's right. I honestly thought she was married to Rainbow because I've never seen Flash once, and she has 3 kids, yet he's her fiancé? And Rainbow hangs out so much around Twilight's house, I honestly believe they were seeing each other or on their way to being a thing. I could have missed something. For some reason, this about 2-minute bit plays of Applejack and Rainbow watching the heads of the main 6 on elves on this Elf Yourself app, and that's the whole bit. That's why I brought that up, by the way. Why is this there? I don't know. What does this do for the story and characters? Nothing. Did it need to be so long to get the joke or idea across? Not really. Like everything in this, things happen. Characters are in places, characters talk about things because they just talk about those things. Why is Twilight with these ponies and not her family? I guess that's where she went when she ran off after the accusations of abuse and general drama drove her away to these ponies she just met, apparently. Rainbow and Spike acting as if this happened not too long ago? I think, but now it's the holidays? Who are these ponies? I don't know. I guess they'll get answered in episode 6. Perhaps there's something in the episodes I missed. I only watched it about 3 months ago when episode 5 dropped. The most I remember is Applejack's angst over Granny despite the fact she's a full-grown adult and can't just be sent to her room, Pinky's love for electronics and riling everyone up with a video that was dropped, something about one of Twilight's kids having a disability, though that hasn't been brought up or relevant since, or how Twilight pumped out 3 kids and we haven't seen the father, then how there's some video of her beating her kids and the main 6 believing it. Because the audio is all over the place. Sometimes there was clean audio and sometimes it went full static. Barely any sound effects, and no coherency anywhere. I'd say if you like Without Your Princess, then you'll enjoy this. With its focus on social media and phones and the MLP world and how it tells a story, it's not for me. If you enjoy it, awesome! I'm glad you can. I just can't. Solely produced for the most part by Forrest McGilvery. I say for the most part since the picture wasn't made by Forrest, nor were the ideas. Followed Equestria lost audio files started near the end of November, releasing a test where the creator asked the audience for story ideas, which would then be turned into short stories. This is a unique premise for an audio series. Each episode is only a few minutes, but they're interesting and engaging. Even though they're short, you can still get some fascinating glances into parts of the wasteland. The ones featured in December are Beltfeld and Roadside, Smokey, Unknown Sergeant, and Unknown Doctor. Beltfed and Roadside had Roadside accidentally coming across Watcher's frequency. Watcher is a pony who looks over the wasteland. He appears on radio frequencies here and there, helping out on occasion from what I understand. This features some great audio production using gunfire and static to cut out information to keep things vague and in an interesting way while fitting in naturally and sounding good. The voice work is well done, as it would be throughout since it's all done by the same person. And though there isn't too much going on here, it was a neat thing to listen in on. Smokey is one of the most touching so far. Pretty tragic but bittersweet ending of 2 ponies finding love at what I imagine is a bar before the war hit. You only spend so much time with these 2, yet you get invested in their relationship. What really got me was their dedication to each other in hard times, and I believe that's part of the strength of this short, what it's able to do with only a few minutes. Unknown Sergeant was pretty straightforward, a tired soldier wanting to go home, but those above him won't let him. It's pretty bittersweet, as we all know how the war ended. Who knows if he got to go home before the mega spells hit? If he survived? Became a ghoul? Died? It's just a simple log, so all the audience can do is speculate or come to their own conclusions. Unknown Doctor goes over a scientist executing a nasty experiment on what can be assumed as an unwilling mare. What the scientist is trying to accomplish is forced evolution, by inducing pain, making the body think it's on the brink of death. This subject was picked in particular because of her fighting spirit. You could hear the work being put into bringing this story to life, with the sounds of machines whirling, and the way the voiceover captures the character of a scientist gone mad in the pursuit of science. It's one of the most interesting of the bunch for sure. If you're not a Fallout Equestria fan or know nothing of it, I can't really recommend these as I feel having some knowledge or interest in Fallout is required for enjoyment. Otherwise, things like Watcher won't make sense. It's a good series of shorts, and if it caught your attention, definitely give it a look, and leave a story suggestion in the YouTube comments on Forrest's channel. Last first episode premiere. This was created by Solia Moon and co-written by Sugar Cloud, who's known for her audio drama series Love and Kindness. And if I'm going to be honest, you should watch that instead. I understand a lot of people love this, and that's great. More power to you. But I can't get into it. Here's my reasons why. Pegasus Princess was hard for me to listen to because of the poor writing and horrible use of abuse. Not that I can't stand stories of abuse, more that it was poorly handled. Tips for those who want to use abuse in their writing: never have that be the focus. There should be more than the abuse. Otherwise, your character will be seen as nothing but a victim, and that's the case here. The protagonist Sugar Star's only character trait is being a victim. It's the only reason you have to care for her or her struggle, rather than giving her a compelling character. Nothing about the story makes any sense. Everything happens because you wouldn't have the scenario without it. Why is everyone being so specious to Sugar? More importantly, why do you need to be an alicorn to be a real princess? In order for this plot to work, you'd have to forget about all the non-pony royalty, Blue Blood, Shining, who'd technically be royalty as he's married to Cadence, the rulers of Saddle Arabia, King Sombra, Princess Platinum, and Princess Amore, one of the Crystal Empire's former leaders. But you can't. Why? Because this is placed in the Crystal Empire that King Sombra attacked, causing a 1,000-year slumber. Princess Amore led, Shining currently rules over, and is located by Yakistan, where Prince Rutherford, a Yak, lives. The only explanation we get as to why a Pegasus can't be royalty is that she isn't an alicorn. Nothing is expanded on past that, and no one can answer why. If anything, regular ponies ended up being more useful in ruling and protecting Equestria than the alicorn rulers themselves in the show. A group consisting of earth ponies, unicorns at one point, and Pegasi, one of which is a fashionista, another a simple farmer. This also ignores one of the founders of Equestria, a Pegasus, and the Wonderbolts. The idea Pegasus can't lead comes off as ridiculous. Now, if this has something to do with crystal pony culture and how anything that isn't an earth pony or an alicorn is looked down upon, maybe, but you'd still have to ignore Amore and Shining, and the fact that the main emotional drive in this regard comes from her father, not the crystal ponies. For some reason, Shining is now a pony speciesist, openly stating his daughter is weak and worthless because she's a Pegasus. Not like you can tell much of anything strength or talent-wise from a 6-year-old. He only makes this assumption because there wouldn't be a plot. This is made funnier seeing as he used to head the Equestrian Royal Guard, which has lots of Pegasi, earth ponies, and unicorns included, none of which would be there if they weren't strong enough. Furthermore, nothing suggests that Shining would act this way to begin with unless in this timeline, Shining's a cruel father who only cares of the superficial. And I have to question if Pegasi can't hold positions of royalty. What about earth ponies and unicorns? What does that mean for him as a ruler of the Empire? After yelling for some reason as he goes from a level tone to full shouting halfway through without transition about how worthless Sugar is and noticing their daughter overhearing the whole thing, crying, what do? Yell at her for eavesdropping. You know, as if no one could hear from across the hall someone yelling at the top of their lungs. Is eavesdropping on an inane conversation so horrible it negates the pain their child is in? Cadence then justifies Shining's behavior by saying she didn't say it, as if that changes anything, trying to push blame off her for not comforting her daughter or properly reprimanding Shining. The princess of love or family, depending on what you refer to, wouldn't comfort her crying daughter after she heard something so awful from her own father, is blameless because she doesn't agree with him. I question how Cadence is being an adult in this instance, as her reason is extremely childish and unbecoming of a leader. Flurry believes Cadence, completely forgetting what her father did and how it affected Sugar, nor how this makes any logical sense, as Cadence did nothing but scold Shining a little and left it there. So Flurry tries to justify this by telling Sugar to suck it up and be a real princess. Then when Sugar runs off to Equestria, who I remind you is a 6-year-old and a princess of an empire, running off to another country on her own to ask Celestia to turn into a real princess, no one notices until she comes back after, assumably, a few days of travel alone. And what do? Do they worry over her safety? Wonder why their daughter felt the need to run away? No. They yell at her and question why she'd ever feel like she was worthless. I wonder why, Shining, after you openly screened how weak she was while casually dismissing her to Cadence, which, yes, came out of nowhere as he seemed to have no problem with her being a Pegasus when she was born. The fact he's unable to understand what he did was wrong is awful and makes no sense. This is, I'm once again assuming, a functioning adult empire leader unable to put together yelling cruel things and hurt feelings are related. Could he have possibly forgotten he did this? Would you forget watching your daughter run off crying after overhearing your harsh words? I'm probably coming off as harsh, but when it comes to something so serious, I feel it's kinda needed. This all comes off as excuses to move this shambling plot forward rather than build something compelling. It's not that I can't get behind Shining Bean like this, it's that there's nothing that explains why, aside from a superficial fact. If being born without a horn was a byproduct of, say, a worse birth defect, maybe Sugar being a sickly child on top of that, then Shining having hesitations of fair treatment would be justified. For example, in the show, they did show Shining being species to changelings, the creatures that nearly killed his wife. That's a good example of justifying bad behavior of an otherwise well-rounded and moral character. Of course it's still bad, but we get where he's coming from. All we needed was that short dialogue exchange to get it, assuming you hadn't seen A Canterlot Wedding. If it wasn't bad enough, the entire kingdom is specious. Why do they think it's okay to openly say Sugar isn't a real princess to her face? There's also the fact that Pegasus Princess isn't able to establish any real character or relations. One miscellaneous scene in particular appears and disappears where Flurry and Sugar have the cliche "we'll always be friends" line, then it fades into the next scene. There are scenes where characters explicitly tell you things, which is the most you'll get from them, breaking the first rule of writing. If you can show it, don't tell it. Sometimes the exposition is repeated, where everything that is explained there is explained by Cadence almost immediately after, and then some. It doesn't help that this friend of Sugar's was introduced and nothing meaningful was done with her in that episode, thus contributing nothing. The only thing it does is establish Sugar having a friend, so when she comes back in episode 2, I presume, it doesn't look like she came out of nowhere. Yet you could have given her more purpose, maybe to comfort her after hearing those hurtful things from her father. The first half contains a lot that had little and easily could have done more had it been better constructed. The voice acting tries to work with the bland dialogue, but it's clearly not doing anything. Sugar, in particular, has an actor who sounds nothing like a 6-year-old. It doesn't help that the dialogue makes her come off as more of a teenager than a 6-year-old. Pony biology aside, we do know in some case that there is a correlation between the age there and age here, enough that a 6-year-old wouldn't act like a teen. There's also the background music, while sounding nice, overly uses the piano, its lack of complexity adding to the issue, to the point it gets tiring and blends. Further pushing the music issue was the inclusion of that overused sad piano song, taking away from the emotional impact. You know the one. plenty of odd editing choices and errors, such as the scene fading out too early, cutting off dialogue, and the use of sounds did little to give imagery to the scenes, if any. For example, when there were multiple ponies walking about, you'd only hear one set of hooves. I don't recommend watching this. If it interests you, give it a try. You'll probably like it more than I did. A lot of people are enjoying it, and that's awesome. Keep doing so. I can't. There's more I could say, things I touched on I could delve into further, but I think I'll save that for another time. This idea could work in theory, it just needs some retooling and I hope it gets better. Another Christmas special from another drama. This one's from Love and Kindness, and boy is it adorable. If it isn't Eris trying to get a peek at her Christmas gifts along with discourse and patience, it's Butterscotch and Fluttershy being their sweet selves as they try to keep those two under control. The short is pretty much the entire cast of Love and Kindness coming together for heartwarming festivities and sharing a song to cap it all off. The sound production here is good, aside from the song where it sounds like something got staticky and how the music sometimes got louder than the singers. There could be more use of sounds, but it doesn't impact the overall experience, so I'm not hung up on it. The writing was sweet, things flowed well and felt natural, no hang-ups there either. There was plenty of talent here, especially in that ending song number. Lots of good singers showing off and it sounded good. It was nice to have a simple little short showing this cast of characters coming together for a warm night of friendship and merriment. I would say this could be watched by anyone. It's not strictly tied to anything, and the most you need to know is that Eris crossed the lines of dimensions or whatever, and now the gender-bent versions of the main six in Discord have made friends. If you're a fan of Love and Kindness, you'll absolutely enjoy this. I'd say watch the series first to get some investment in these characters. After all, it's only 6 minutes, and then you'll enjoy it more. One last Christmas special for this month. This one is A Carol for Christmas by Sweet Song. I was ready to give this one some praise, as it did a few unique things that worked well, and even gave certain aspects a good portrayal. That opening scene was well done. It captured the feeling it was trying to get across. The distortion and speeding up of the music as it came to a head was a great touch, while introducing what we need to know as well. How it portrays depression feels realistic with that voice in the back of your head and the behavior of the character. That scene where Melody came to talk to Sweet was great. Hearing that kind of talk from your friends helps, and feeling as if you can't really do much is accurate, because it can feel that way when your friend goes into a depressive episode, knowing that there's only so much you can do. How the songs were fitting, and even the title Sing As Sweet is trying to get back into singing and music creation, so it makes sense for this to be a musical. How this was made with OCs, and you don't need to know anything about them to enjoy it. All it does is give you what you need, and that's it. The fact that the ghosts go out of order was a great idea in this instance, as that's what the character needed. I was going to give a pass to the lacking writing, mostly in the dialogue, the performances that didn't always carry a scene, but that's probably because they're friends, I'm assuming, portraying their characters, so that's just something you'll have to overlook. Even the bad balancing where sometimes you couldn't hear someone, the vocals, or the voice actors because the music was louder than that. I could look past all that, but then the end happened. I'm going to sit everyone down a moment, especially those playing to write a character with depression. You can't choose to be depressed. Depression is a chemical imbalance in the brain. Anyone can be depressed, and you can't control it. You can manage it with medication and therapy. Do not, and I want to stress this, do not ever have a character who's supposed to be teaching a lesson or being that character's friend in some way say, and I quote, "You valued your depression over your friends." No. Depression isn't a choice. You can't stop being depressed. You can't just make yourself happy or get over it. That's not how depression works. And having one that goes say that, whose purpose is to teach the end moral to the character learning it, is terrible. In fact, said ghost is the friend of the depressed character who was accidentally killed by them. Why? Because Sweet can be bothered to get over her depression, to see her friends, or send socks instead of old lights. To sum it up, it's your fault I'm dead. If you had done something, shown up, and be a real friend, I wouldn't be dead. Now get over your depression and do something. I have nothing to say other than a quote someone gave me after explaining the sequence. That made them more depressed. What are they trying to do? Get them to commit suicide? What was meant to be a way of letting her friends know she still cares, she just can't be there, i.e. sending a message and a gift, became a guilt-tripping segment where Molly, said character who was killed, mentally beats and scares Sweet with the threat of death into spending more time with her friends to make up for her death. In the original Christmas Carol, Scrooge was scared with the threat of death, but more so that he died alone and caused suffering because of his selfish actions. Sweet wasn't being selfish. She was going through a depressive episode. There was no need to treat her like this over something out of her control. Molly then proceeds to force her to apologize so she can move on. It's hard to tell, but it comes off as if Sweet didn't know she had killed her best friend. I'm sure she knew Molly died since her spirit came to haunt her. Regardless, Sweet had to be shown and guilted into learning some lesson about friendship, a lesson that was unneeded. What she needed was proper counseling and medical help, and ending on that note left the end resolution to be soured. It had a few nice messages going over the importance of criticism, how those closest to you are what matters, the importance of living in the present, but no, it ended by saying, "Get over your depression, friend killer." That obviously wasn't the intention, I get that. It's why it's called Unfortunate Implications. This is similar to the MLP Christmas Carol adaptation, where it kind of implied celebrate heartwarming no matter your beliefs or feelings, or we all die. And that was further pushed by the finale with the return of the Wendigos, basically threatening that if at any time ponies stop being nice to each other, everyone dies. A Carol for Christmas could have been a unique and fresh take on a Christmas Carol, but ended up giving a horrible and false message of depression instead. If you can look past that, maybe just watch the first half, then that's the only recommendation I can give. Recently on this channel, we released a short of our audio play Conquest. If you don't watch our channel or didn't know, you can check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. I talk about it, but I made it, so I just say how fun it was to make and write it. That's all for this month. Let's take a look at what's coming up. Bees Melissa released a trailer for an upcoming holiday special, Warm Hearted. It's looking adorable so far. Anything that has Grandpa Gruff being a sweet and loving guardian to gals already has my attention. We all know despite his rough and grumpy exterior, he cares a ton for him, so go check out the trailer. Soleil Moon has released a trailer, a sneak peek, and a song sneak peek for Pegasus Princess. The sneak peek is a sketch animatic for a future song. The other is a duet song. I don't have much to say other than there's a big time gap between episodes 1 and 2. When it comes out, I'm sure I'll have more to say. Check them out, links in the description. McFlurry VA released a sneak peek for Differences Stand Together, a new audio drama coming very soon according to the description. The sneak peek doesn't give too much on what the series will be about, but there are other trailers and like on another channel that I believe belongs to a Lily Blossom. I'm sure it can be found with a quick search. Flurry did say in a public server how they're looking for male VAs and artists, so if you're interested in helping out, leave a comment on Flurry's YouTube channel or send a message if you can. Otherwise, go check it out and keep an eye out for the first episode's release. MuseScript has released a sneak peek for episode 7 of The Colored Goddess. Remember everyone, stranger danger! Don't listen to those creepy voices in the unknown woods. You can check it on the link below and see what's in store for the main 6 and co. According to Wolf Harmony and Flutter Rose, directors of The Lost Sun, the series has been deleted because of the YouTube copyright system. On the bright side, they've made plans to remake the series, cutting out a lot of songs, making some changes to the story, and updating the design of the main character Torin. To get more information on the matter, check out the update video and keep an eye out for a future casting call if you're interested in helping. I'm going to apologize because I don't know how to pronounce this. Awika released a casting call some time ago and has finally picked out some VAs for their comic dub audio drama adaptation of their comic. Unfortunately, not all the roles are filled. Last I heard, a Sunburst is needed, though Iwika didn't mention asking someone about it. The link to the original casting call will be in the description. Why not ask if there's still a need, and check out the original comic while you're at it. Yay Fluttershy has released a trailer and a sneak peek for episode 5 of Bittersweet Revenge. I can't really tell what's going on in the trailer, there's so much going on the screen, but the sneak peek shows Starlight's associates digging through her books. Only time will tell what comes in episode 5. Blue Heart Tattoo has completed the first round of auditions for the future audio drama adaptation of The Element of Kindness. Unfortunately, not all the roles are filled. The roles still needed are Pinky, Babseed, and Diamond Tiara. If you're interested in auditioning, see the results video for more details. Nightingale Lullaby is starting their foray into the audio drama community with a casting call. The drama is called Stolen Love and requires VAs for characters like Rara, Applejack, Rarity, and Svengala. Go check it out if it sounds interesting to you. Episode 2 of Mother Chrysalis is going to need some voice actors and artists if it's going to happen. If you enjoyed the first episode and want to help out, Love, Heart, and Vinyl have put up a casting call. There's a need for both male and female voice actors with characters such as Zecora, Mayor Mare, a spa pony, Rosa, and some guards. Why not go check it out? I know this isn't an audio drama, but Midnight 29 is in need of a Rainbow Dash VA and has been for a long time. I haven't heard anything about one being found, so I'm going under the assumption she's still in need. She's needed for a fanfiction reading of Dream Equestria. It looks like a good production. I don't know how much will be required acting-wise, probably not too much. Most likely a supporting role with a fair amount of lines. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to the original casting call with all the info. Ignore the due dates and all that. This casting call will be going on for quite some time and didn't exactly release last month, but since I just started doing this, I thought I'd cover anyone's currently going on anyways. Once again, I'm going to apologize for the pronunciation. Robbie Larobino has been working on this for some time and is now ready to find voice actors, artists, writers, composers, audio design and audio editors, even a novelist to assist in this project known as My Little Pony, The Unexpected Future. If you watch a lot of MLP artists on DeviantArt, there's a chance you've seen some work related to this project, specifically Applejack with a hoof replaced by a hook or what I presume to be a Draconicus Fluttershy. There are tons of rules for VAs of all sorts, so why not check it out? Yet another casting call that's been going on for a while, but I thought I'd share it here since it's ending this month. Touch the Sky is being headed by Pegasus Princess, and I have to give a content warning for this because not only do some of the audition lines contain cursing, but the creator has stated this project will be very dark, so being of age is important. If you want to audition, you better hurry! That's all for updates, casting calls, teasers, and trailers of December 2019. Did I miss anything? I hope I didn't. I really try to get every drama update and so on. If I did, feel free to leave a comment below or send me a note on DA and I'll make a quick addendum at some point. If you do have something audio drama, play, story, production related coming up next month or in future months, just send it over and I'll cover it at the beginning of the next month. I do have rules for what counts and what doesn't, I'll leave below. Here's hoping for a bright start to the new year.